Good afternoon, everyone. So now we will discuss the catching a moving object. So let's begin. Catching objects have two important differences. So first is catching involves intercepting a moving object. Prehension typically involves a stationary object. Second, the grasp of the object in the catching action ends the action. Prehension typically involves doing something with grasp the object. So although in some sport situations such as baseball and softball, there are occasions in which a player must remove the ball from the glove after to catch and throw the ball. Next is the three phases of catching an object. So first is move the arm on hand towards the oncoming object. Second, he or she must shape the hand to catch the object. Third is the finger must grasp the object. In the first phase of movement can be initiated from a variety of positions. To attain a position, we start at one and end in another. To posture from which the movement is initiated are known as the starting position. So this can be either be active or passive in nature. In the second phase, the major function of the human hand is to manipulate object to accomplish a goal. So the ability of human hand is to assure a myriad of position and to apply only the precise amount of pressure. So it is necessary to hold an object is due to the mobility and stability supplied by the skeleton and to the power of the muscles. In the third phase, the sensory feedback is used to assess the shape, size, textures, and weight of the object. So the feedback used in both grasping and lifting of an object. So this is dependent on the brain interpreting correctly what is seen in the hand responding appropriately. Williams and McCary 1988 provided research evidence demonstrating the phases of catching with their study of 11-year-old boy trying to catch a ball with one hand. If we analyze the movement in the figure, there was no arm motion for the first 0 to 25% of the ball flight. Then elbow flexion gradually began and continued slowly and uniformly for about 80% of the ball flight. At about the same time, fingers began to extend, the hand began to withdraw from the oncoming ball until about one half of the ball flight time had elapsed. And the upper arm accelerated above the shoulder, which resulted in the hands being transported to the spatial position required for intercepting the ball. Boys who caught the ball began final positioning action 80% earlier than boys who failed to catch it by the time of 75% of the ball flight was complete. Prior contact, each successful boy had his hand and finger in a ready state for touching the ball. The result indicates the vision provides advanced information enabling the motor control system to spatially and temporally to set the arms, hands, and fingers before the ball arrives so that the individual can catch the ball. The person bases the grasping action and visual information obtained before the ball makes contact with the hand rather than on feedback obtained after the ball has hit the hand. Research evidence also show that both central and peripheral vision operate when a person picks up information critical to catching an object.
Peripheral vision operate when a person pick up information critical catching an object. So atong peripheral vision makita na to nga dali ra siya ma-pick up itong peripheral vision into kanang para na catch na to ang usa ka object.
When we say central vision, this is what we can see directly in front of us, while the peripheral vision is what we can see from the corner of our eyes without turning our head.
Vision of the object and catching. Catching an object such as a ball is a complex perception action skills that has challenged researchers in their efforts to understand how the visual and motor control systems that interact. Vision of the object and catching, and the result of this research effort have identified several factors that influence successfully catching, which relate specifically to the visual and observation of the object. The results indicate that vision provides advanced information, enable the motor control system to spatially and temporally set the arm, hands, and finger before the ball arrives so that the individual can catch the ball. So one factor is the amount of time of visual contact with the moving object, of visual contact time. So researcher evidence indicates that constant visual contact is needed during the two critical periods of time in the object's flight. So the initial part of the flight and the period time just prior to the contact with the hand indicates the importance of visual contact when the ball is going towards you or towards me, and you will catch it in the period of time.
Some researchers have reported evidence indicating that observation of the initial flight should continue until the ball reaches its zenith.
Although others have indicated that only the first 300 milliseconds of flight are the important.
The important point here is that visual contact with the object is needed for an amount of time during each initial flight phase that is sufficient to obtain information to determine estimates of the direction and distance of the flight.
In terms of visual contact with the object during its final portion of flight, the research evidence indicates that the time period between 200 and 300 milliseconds before hand contact is critical for successful catching.
Although the precise amount of time may depend on the specific characteristic of the situation, especially the length of the time object is in flight and its velocity. They need to see the ball during the final position of its flight is to obtain specific time to contact information for the final spatial positioning of the hand and fingers, and the timing of the closing of the fingers during the grasp of the object.
In the research by Elliott and his colleagues indicates that continuous visual contact with the ball during this period of time is not essential. The Elliott et al. 1994 study showed that people can catch a ball that has a flight time of 1 second by intermittently seeing brief snapshot, approximately 20 milliseconds of the ball every 80 milliseconds of its flights. Thus, people can use visual samples of ball flight characteristics to obtain the information they need to catch the ball.
More experienced and skilled catchers do not need to steer their hands. Less experienced and low-skilled catchers require vision of their hands. So the reason for this difference appears to relate to a person's capability to use proprioceptive feedback to catch a moving object. So the explanation for this is that the less experienced low-skilled person needs visual feedback in the use of proprioceptive feedback, especially position his or her arms and until effectively grasp the object in terms of helping people improve their catching skills.
This relationship between experience and the need for vision of the hand suggests that beginners and less skilled people should practice catching primarily in situations where they can see their hands throughout the ball flight from the point where the ball leaves the thrower hands until the ball is grasped. In addition, catching a flying ball involves bringing the hand to the aim interception point at the right time, adjusting the hand posture to receive the incoming ball and to absorb the ball momentum, and closing the hand to ensure the stable grip. A small error in any of this action can lead to a failure in catching the ball. In particular, the value of the wrist velocity at impact distinguished good from poor catcher. However, they showed similar wrist kinematics in grasp and touch trials. This also found that specific grasping features predicted that catching outcomes both on a trial by trial basis and across individuals of different performance level. Of hand closing distinguished touch from grasp trials. A proper triggering of the enclosing phase of the grasping movement and an accurate alignment of the peak of the hand closing speed to the impact event predicted the catching performance of different person or a participants. This indicates that the control of the grasping movement was the main source of error affecting catching performance. Moreover, this suggested that distinct temporal and spatial features in the coordination of the grasping movement are related to the individual catching abilities. So that's the catching a moving object all about. I hope you guys understand the topic. Thank you for listening.